Welcome everyone, Christine here with the discussion about Cathay for Shadows of Change and the things that Creative Assembly should hopefully change in patch 4.2. Cathay, out of the three races affected by Shadows of Change, Cathay was always in the best position. And after Shadows of Change came out, they are still in the very best position as a race. Their campaigns are playable for all their legendary lords. There are no game-breaking issues, there's no major bugs that is going to ruin a Cathayan campaign. But there are problems and things that I feel should be improved upon. Now, Cathay does have a pretty good economy when you look at the situation. If you pay attention to the wares market, it has 150 income for 500. This is a good amount. It goes to 200, it goes to 325. If only Kislev had this kind of economic structure, if only. Or you can go with the Goods Emporium for trade tariff benefits. But on top of that, they also have Administration Center, which gives you 6% income from all buildings in the local province. Or you can go with the Lumber Mill, which reduces construction costs by 6%. This is what makes Cathay good. It's not just that their economic building, their baseline economic building is decent enough. It's also the fact that they have plenty of modifiers. Harmony, for instance, Perfect Harmony, gives you plus 15% income from all buildings and reduces upkeep by 25%, as well as increasing campaign movement range. I'll talk about Harmony in just a bit, the issues with that. But suffice to say, Cathay is in a good spot from an economic perspective. They aren't in a good spot from a casualty replenishment perspective. Now, of course, Creative Assembly is going to add a melee hero with 4.2. If he has casualty replenishment, problem solved, especially if you can get him at, say, tier 3. Not really a problem. If you can't get him until, say, tier 4 or tier 5, then that is going to be an issue. However, it should be pointed out that when we're looking at Cathay's hero capacity, they do get Alchemists at tier 3, they get Astromancers, increased capacity at tier 4, and to be honest, you'll have so many Astromancers in a Cathayan campaign, you won't really care about this all that much. The reason is that there is the ability of getting a significant number of Astromancers in a Cathayan campaign if you're looking at, say, the Grand Observatory as an example. That's going to increase your capacity by 1. And there's various possibilities of getting quite a lot of Astromancers and some really powerful economic benefits during the course of your campaign. But really, you're not going to struggle with regards to Astromancer hero capacity. Especially because Cathay does have a decent level of growth, and with a good income, they can get to a higher tier faster than quite a lot of other races. So hero capacity is fine. Hopefully that will be the same situation with the new hero. Now, good economy, good army, really great variety of units. You can get cannons at tier 3, if only the Empire could do that. You can get Hellstorms or Fire Rain Rockets at tier 4, and you can get Skyjunks at tier 5. I wish Skyjunks were available earlier on because they are really powerful. I would probably move the Fire Rain Rocket to tier 4, and yeah, just remove this tier 5 building and put it at tier 4. That would be good. But overall, there are no significant issues with Cathay's roster from a unit perspective. They have solid infantry, they have really good range, they have plenty of options. Of course, the problem with infantry is like formation tech was always gimmicky, and it was the case when the game launched. And the first campaign I finished on Legendary was Miao Ying on Legendary in Realms of Chaos. And it's like, you didn't realize it for a long time that, yeah, formation attack was really busted. They fixed it, but I just don't really see the point. It's a gimmick, and that's kind of the issue with Cathay in general. They have really good units at tier 1 and tier 2, like Jade Warriors. Yeah, they don't have the melee capability of Warriors of Chaos, but they have durability, and that's really important, especially when you're accounting for defensive stance and you're accounting for battle harmony. They will hold the line quite very effectively, while Jade Warrior Crossbowmen will do a significant amount of damage. They don't necessarily have the best armor piercing, but they're substantially better than Imperial Crossbowmen just because of their very, very high armor. So Cathay's basic unit roster is in a good position. But here's the problem. There is no reason in a campaign to play with anything other than Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. All the great units that Cathay has, the Terracotta Sentinels, the Celestial Dragon Guard. Like, there's no reason to get them because, yeah, a couple of Jade Lancers can be fun to use. A couple of artillery units, absolutely useful. But outside of like getting a couple of Grand Cannons and then Fire Rain Rockets, you're mostly going to be going with Jade Warriors, Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, and then eventually upgrading them to Jade Warrior Crossbowmen with shields and halberds if you want to. This is where I think Cathay really could use a boost. You see Jade Warriors, they're the same unit in a lot of ways, just a different weapon or a shield. I really think some kind of version of the Warband upgrade system would fit in very well for Cathay to give them army diversity. At least for Jade Warriors, give us the ability of upgrading Jade Warrior, basic Jade Warriors into not Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, but Jade Warriors with halberds, and give us the ability of upgrading Jade Warrior Crossbowmen into Jade Warrior Crossbowmen with shields. Just a very basic upgrade path. Attila had this to point this out. I'm not asking for the Warband upgrade system, though that would certainly be good as well. You can use the mod for that if you're interested. It does work, it's pretty solid. And it does increase your army diversity. But that lack of diversity for much of the early game, Cathay campaigns are done within 20 turns because you basically want to take Cathay as quickly as possible and you end up dominating the rest of the map if you're interested in that. But that means you're just going to play against Snitch, Lokir, Nakai with just Jade Warriors and Jade Warriors Crossbowmen. Maybe some Iron Hail Gunners if you're really, really interested in it. There's a use, absolutely. But it does end up feeling fairly limited. Also, I want to point out Yan Bo's campaign situation is kind of like not great. It's like, why do we start with the floating pyramid as a ruined settlement? Why do the Greenskins start with 3 armies as opposed to just, I don't know, one next to us, another one over here? It's a really odd campaign starting position over here for Yan Bo, but that's perhaps a discussion for another video. But yeah, the army is good. It does have diversity, but it doesn't have practical diversity. Some form of upgrade would improve that situation, some units becoming available at tier 4 as opposed to tier 5. I think in general, any unit that requires you to get to tier 5 is meaningless in a campaign perspective because you just may get a couple of them. So in general, I would say like every unit in the game for every race should be available at tier 4. And yes, make more units available like Jade Lancers tier 2, all that kind of stuff. That's my perspective given the current meta of Warhammer 3, because you play Warriors of Chaos, they can get a lot of the stuff much earlier than anyone else. That's one of the reasons Warriors of Chaos are such a powerful race. This is one of the reasons Draika is such a powerful lord, for instance, because she gets Malevolent Shriek which curb stomp everything in their path. Creative Assembly needs to decide what kind of pacing they want for their campaigns in general. And no, pacing things out differently in different campaigns just means some campaigns are faster and some campaigns are slower, thus some campaigns are much better, because if you can achieve things faster in certain campaigns, guess what? That's a better race. Plain fact. Now, that's the issue with unit recruitment. Let's talk about Harmony. The initial Harmony system was meaningless because it was very easy to get perfect Harmony and it was very annoying to keep it. It wasn't difficult. I wish to point this out. It wasn't difficult. You weren't making magnificent choices in your campaign or anything like that. It was just frustrating. Then Creative Assembly changed this, and I felt that the original change of Shadow Change was reasonable enough. Yes, it would have been nice to have some kind of buffer for Harmony or anything like that, but then people cried out, oh, there's no negative for going in yin or yang. That is ridiculous. Let me be clear on this. Perfect Harmony is the best choice because the campaign movement range, the upkeep and income from buildings makes it the best choice. It has free effects, all of which are individually very powerful. But together, you basically, I need people to understand how significant 25% upkeep is. Supply lines, just to recruit another army over here, let's say we go with the Celestial General. This is, by the way, what you should do. If we look at supply lines, it's 4%. So suddenly that 25% upkeep reduction ends up being significant. So anyone who was like saying, oh, there's no reason to go perfect harmony, and people are making that argument, I'm sorry, that's a load of rubbish. It is significantly better. But Creative Assembly listened, so what they've done is significantly nerfed yin or yang. So going full yang will reduce your growth, control, construction cost, and increase construction time. Going full yin is just going to screw you over in terms of recruitment. So you have no reason in a campaign to either go full yin or yang. And going full yin or yang was already a sacrifice, not just because you were losing the harmony system, the harmony benefit, the perfect harmony benefit, but it meant, let's say you want to go full yin. Well, you're losing flat out income because you weren't going with the Warriors market. you were losing the lumber mill. Same with if you're going full yang, you will lose out on the administration center. So there, and that upkeep benefit and income from old buildings. 15% income from old buildings with a 25% upkeep benefit is enormous. But no, people complained, and honestly, I think this was a really bad complaint. Of all the things Creative Assembly could have changed for Shadows of Change, adding negative effects to yin or yang was just one of the worst decisions they could have made from my perspective. Yes, I do believe that this should be reversed, because it means, basically, here's the practical implication of this. People say, oh, it forces you to build your provinces in a certain way. No, it eliminates choices. It means that I'm always building every province in the same goddamn way, and there's no variety. There was variety when we could go full yang and make a province a massive recruitment center, but that's not worth it anymore, because guess what? You're going to want to get these buildings as high tier as possible. Sure, once you get to a certain high tier, you may wish to go for yang, for the purposes of recruitment slots. But right now in a campaign, from a practical standpoint, the only thing you do in terms of yin or yang is you either go full harmony, or when you're recruiting a lot of units, you just go a bit of yang. That's it. You don't go full yang, because that's a massive sacrifice. That costs money. That loses you money. So you go a bit of yang, you just build one building, that's it. You build one yang building, you get the extra recruitment capacity, and that's all you're doing. That's the variety of the harmony system. This was better when SOC launched. The fact they changed it, not a great situation from where I'm standing. I know people will disagree on that, but that's where I stand on the subject. Okay, harmony being meaningless is one thing. That's one aspect. Let's talk about the compass, which is another aspect that is kind of meaningless in Cathay and campaign. So supposedly, if you're playing on bow especially, you have a bunch of these compass options, and they're really powerful. Like, if you go with the Nangjiang Basin, you get the significant construction cost, construction time benefit, or you can get characters are immortal and reduce attrition, or you can get recruit rank and all that. This is all utterly meaningless in a campaign. From a practical standpoint, let me put it like this. Cathay has bad casualty replenishment at the moment, so all you do in a campaign is you go with the Great Bastion. Once you fill this Great Bastion bar for that 10% casualty replenishment, the only other thing you're going to do is go for the Celestial Lake. And you will want to keep Celestial Lake as often as possible, because the active effect of Celestial Lake gives you income from all buildings 15%. Couple that with Perfect Harmony, you get 30% income benefit for a faction that already generates a pretty decent income. I'm not saying this should be nerfed. Cathay does actually need this, if they're considering some of the foes they're dealing with. But the point I'm making right now with the aspect of the Great Compass, it's just such a meaningless benefit right now. You are either going casualty replenishment or you're going income. There's no other choice. If you have good casualty replenishment, if they add it for the new hero, then you're always going to play with Celestial Lake. That is just plainly a fact. You might switch casualty replenishment for just that bit extra sometimes, but everything else, every other compass decision is utterly pointless. They need to change the way the compass works. Maybe having it alternate faster between different directions, as opposed to you having to wait 10 turns, because 10 turns is a lot. Maybe having the bar fill up faster than it currently does, and all effects being passive as opposed to active, and you having to constantly decide, okay, which bar am I going to fill up? How much do I care about them filling up? So for instance, let's say if we could change the compass direction every 5 turns, but the full degradation would take 10 turns or something along those lines, or 15, that would put you in a position where you had to make choices. And no, you wouldn't just get everything. You would have to decide what you want to get, what is important. And also some of these effects are meaningless. Like, for instance, you get 1 Lord Recruit rank for Caravan Masters. That's utterly pointless. Like, consider the fact, 1 Lord Recruit rank, 20% cargo capacity. Let's consider this. A caravan at a low level, if we sell it, if we send it out over here to the highest possible, is going to be, let's say, 5,000 early on, right? 20% is 1,000 more, to be certain, but keep in mind the travel time. So if we send this caravan to say Altorf, right, where we might get close to 5,000, and yes, we do increase cargo capacity with Lord skills, But let's say we were gonna get 5,000. Well, it takes 9 turns. You can do the math on that. Basically, what I'm saying over here is 20% cargo sale capacity and sale value and maximum cargo capacity doesn't end up being worth that much. We're talking maybe 1,000, 2,000 at most that you're going to get as a benefit from that. And you gotta split it up within 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 turns that it takes a caravan to travel. It ends up being a meaningless benefit. As opposed to, I don't know, the 15% flat income benefit that you do have in your campaign, or the 10% casualty replenishment benefit with an army ability. The magical ability, Dragon's Emperor Wrath, is pointless because enemy armies don't take a lot of attrition, even from this, and reducing corruption is also meaningless. Celestial Intervention is possibly the most useful out of all of them. What about Nongchang Basin? It's great, reducing construction time for all buildings, but just keep in mind this is specifically related to Yan Bo, and he has to unlock it. And unlocking it, well, let's just say that you need to go over here and beat up Recarve. And you also need to take a territory in unpleasant climate in order to do so. So this is still not a great situation, even for him. And really, it's just a side grade, if you will, compared to that 15% income. And by the time you get it, do you really care all that much? I guess you do if you were to rush Recarve. Maybe you would, but like, let's say you get it in like 30 turns. In 30 turns, you're going to have tier 4 settlements if you really want to do so. And 40 turns, you'll win the campaign flat out. That is Yan Bo's problem in a campaign, and actually it's a problem in all Cathay campaigns. There's not really all that much to Cathay campaigns if you overcome the early game. So once you unify Cathay, you've won the campaign. There's no threat, no issue, nothing that is going to threaten you in a campaign. This is a larger issue in Total War, but Cathay, I say, suffers from it more than others. It's a good race. It's one of the best races in the game, but their campaigns just feel empty compared to, say, the fun that you can have in a Greenskin, Skaven, Vampire Count campaign, Dark Elven campaign, or even High Elven campaign. I don't know, just Cathay ends up feeling flat, despite the strength that they do have as a race. One of the problems is climate. Yan Bo does have jungle, the other ones don't have jungle, and because of the terrain situation that they're dealing with, it means that your expansion potential is severely limited. And what about Lustria, Yan Bo? Yeah, Lustria sucks. Let me put it like this. Having jungle sounds great in theory. Well, from a practical perspective, Lustria sucks because it's a very slow part of the campaign map to actually deal with. So having terrain over there in a campaign in Lustria is just not especially all that great either, from where I'm standing on this particular subject. And this is, like, Creative Assembly really needs to improve the variety, really needs to make more meaningful compass choices. A final annoyance is the Great Bastion itself. Cast Wasteland is not really that great to deal with, and yes, I am going to deliberately force march over here just to bait this army and attacking. You want to deal with this army as quickly as possible. But the problem that you do have is, like, you're constantly going to be attacked from the Great Bastion. It's easy enough to hold it, but it does cost you resources to upgrade it. I feel like the Great Bastion is one of the most meaningless mechanics in the entire game, honestly, at this particular point. The reason I say it's meaningless is going to come down to the simple fact that, well, you either dominate your opponents and you hold them back with ease, or you're not doing so, in which case you're losing, which is not really a great situation to find oneself in. That is the problem that you do have over there as a player when you're dealing with Cathay. Like, the Great Bastion mechanic is just another gimmick. I mean, I wish, I guess, that the Empire had its own Bastion, the Auric Bastion, if you will, but yeah, right now it is just simply a gimmick. As for Matters of State, it is powerful. There's some nice stuff that you can have, especially in terms of how you can build up your settlements in different ways with a different focus. But the Grey Compass options that even Yan Bo has, just really not that great to deal with either. Anyway, that's all I had to say on the subject of Cathay. Really could use better variety that actually matters when the actual challenge of the campaign exists, which means Snitch, Low Care, etc. Mazdamundi if you're playing Yan Bo. And yes, the compass needs to be redone. Hell, even the caravans themselves. When we're talking about the Chaos Dwarfs have a much more interesting caravan system. Why exactly CA didn't update that for Shadows of Change doesn't really make sense to me. Well, I guess we know why they did it. They didn't want to put in the effort. That was the modus operandi, really, of Shadows of Change. Now they're making a change, if you will, for how they're going to handle things, but I guess we'll see what comes of it. Hopefully, we will see some of these changes. Though, I'll be honest, I am kind of discouraged from the fact that we've gotten 2 blog posts from Creative Assembly and we haven't heard anything about racial changes so far. Costin signing out.